Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Biters, the podcast about The Walking Dead and all things zombie. I am Jeff Marsick, one of your co-hosts, a screenwriter and writer of the self-published comic book Z-Girl and the Four Tigers.
And I am Kirk Manley, illustrator and also co-creator of Z-Girl and the Four Tigers, and the artist on that book. And we are pumped. It is episode 10, baby.
Episode 10. This was the episode that I was hoping that last week, or that I thought last week should have been, the energy wise. I mean, everything that they promised in the preview, the energy and the intensity, it came through on this episode. So,
yeah.
We've got a lot to talk about on this.
Yeah, and you know what? I agree with you. And I want to not apologize. I want to retract my.
Oh my God! See, because anybody listening, that would have been a first. You'd have heard it here.
Hey, instead it say juxtapose.
There we go. Streak is alive.
But I kind of disagreed with you last week in terms of that particular criticism of last week's episode, and I'm not taking back that I disagree. I think last week's episode was paced correctly, but I do think now I do feel that I agree with the fact that coming back after that long of a break, to reintroduce us, like you said, to this get back into this world, the slow pace may not have been the right way to start, and maybe even more enticing to have to wait one more episode to find out what happened to Rick and Carl and Michonne. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and like I said last week, I understand the motivation behind it. Or I understand why, because you're coming off of the big set piece of the prison, and when this is packaged in a DVD set, you're going to need that pause.
Right. No, that's an excellent point. Excellent point. So
I get the placement. However, like I said last week, what I would have done, because last week's episode and this week's episode are basically standalones, I would have switched the order for the season and then put it back the way you want it for the DVD.
Oh, that's cool. That's a good idea.
So that's how I think it should have rolled, and I think I might have been more forgiving on Carl last week, maybe.
And it's pudding buffet.
But we got the second episode of the second half of season 4 here, but we also have the Olympics going on, so it's like a big deal. Everybody's watching the Olympics. Yeah, well, basically, Walking Dead, nothing stands up against the Walking Dead except maybe the NFL. So 2 weeks in a row, Sochi has been schooled by The Walking Dead. So last week they pulled in 15.8 million viewers. This week they pulled in 13.3, which is still, and they still scored higher in the 18 to 49 demographic that everybody's wants. Like, blew the 18 to 49 demographic away compared to what was watching the Olympics.
Wow!
So it's unbelievable. Just absolutely unbelievable.
The tank keeps rolling on.
Oh my gosh!
I think Bob Costas has come down with the zombie virus.
Seriously. Seriously.
That guy's eyes, man. Holy cow.
It was like, it was when he had the one eye and the thing going on, and that was all over HuffPo and all these other sites. And then it went to 2 eyes, and everybody's like, "Oh my God!" And he was looking freaky, and he's still not recovered.
I was waiting for the foam to start coming out of his mouth.
It's funny. I think like a month, maybe 2 months ago. I was in New York City, and I was walking to the train. I passed him on the street.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Hopefully you didn't catch anything.
He's tiny. He's small. Like, I don't know what the numbers is, but he's got to be like 5'5", maybe, if that. But it was funny because as he comes walking by, I registered in my head, holy crap, that's Bob Costas. And he's hustling by, he's clearly on his way to something, and he's just got a look in his eyes. He looks up, sees me, and you see the look in his eyes. Please don't say hi to me. Please don't say hi to me. Please don't say. And so
that's funny. That's funny.
But so the ratings on Walking Dead still killer.
Awesome. I had 2 quick observations from last week that I wanted to come back to that I either missed or have thought of since that I wanted to add before we move forward on this episode. Did you catch the decaying city in the window of Michonne's apartment? I did not the first time around.
Yes, I did, because it was. And it's funny you brought that up, because I actually had a mental note to mention that. Again, it just went with how awesome that scene was shot.
Yeah.
Versus, you're looking out the window, she's in the kitchen and she's cooking, and it's just this beautiful thing. And then when everything starts to deteriorate, and you look out, and that entire city was just,
I think it was
desolate.
testimony to the fact that I was so freaked out by what I was watching and so into the characters and what they, their interaction and this weirdness that was happening as the scene de-evolved, that I didn't even pay attention to the exterior shot through the window.
Yeah.
But then I heard about it and I went and watched it again, and it was like, blew my mind. So such a nice touch to that scene. The other is that there's a lot of online speculation that Michonne will have Carl's shoe, and that's why Rick said, "It's for you." And I thought that was kind of like when she was coming through the town and she found the pudding can and everything. I remember thinking to myself, she's going to go in and find that shoe, kill that zombie and find that shoe and know it's his and bring it to him. But then I kind of, then they showed her a shot or two later, and she didn't, to my appearance, what I could tell, she didn't have it.
Right.
So I assumed that wasn't going to happen. But then I just went back and checked yesterday, and they don't show her. When they show her come up to the steps and look in, but she could have it in her backpack or over her back somewhere or something like that.
Right.
And then he looks out the window, and then he turns to her, Carl, and he says, "It's for you." And then the scene cuts. So it would be cool if that's what they do. I thought it'd be cool.
Well, that would make a better ending for me if she was holding up he looks out the window or he looks out and she's holding up the shoe like,
right.
Look what I found.
Yeah, you forgot something.
Then it would make that last line I would back off a little bit on how much I dislike that last line. Only a little bit.
And I still think that the line had a lot of metaphorical qualities to it with the idea of hope and that things are going to get better and everything else. And that's why it was for him in Rick's mind, because he really needed it at that point. And maybe they split it like that so that people could interpret it that way, and then there would be a literal reason for it when you see in the beginning of next episode. I don't know.
I tell you, going around the internet and seeing all these theories, they're awesome. And so for the second week, we've live blogged or live tweeted actually the episode, and
that was a gas.
It's a lot of fun. So we had @Biters Podcast. That's what I was tweeting on. Kirk was on there with @BatmanKM. We had Rob, who's the emperor of Southgate Media Group, and I think that should be his Twitter
Rob,
handle
we mean that in a very
very respectful way.
Respectful way. That's right.
But
please don't behead us.
So we had this barrage of tweeting going on, which was fun. But when I've got this going, I've got the Biters Podcast. I've got it up on TweetDeck, so I'm watching. When I'm tweeting and what people are retweeting and stuff like that. But I also have the hashtag The Walking Dead going, so I can see what other people are saying. I can't keep up with it.
Oh,
dude.
It is like it's crazy. Well, you have 13 million people. You got to figure at least half of them people, I would guess, are tweeting.
Well, that was I forgot.
Given that age group.
Yeah, well, that was a number from last week as well. That and I think it peaked at 9:30 last week. But from 9 to 10 was like this. The majority of the tweets that were going out were about Walking Dead.
Yeah.
And it's just crazy.
I believe it. But that was fun. So everybody who's listening, definitely, if you're on Twitter, you got to check it out. Get your Twitter up when the show's on, and follow the Biters tweets and Batman KM. And sometimes I assume you'll be at Glom. We should probably switch back and forth.
Yeah.
Something, I don't know.
There's one downside to it. I don't know if it's a downside so much, but one. when you get done, like, because you're watching the show, you're throwing out a couple tweets. You're not throwing out a whole lot. You're throwing out a couple tweets, and you're watching the Twitter stream. And I tell you what, for someone who's got multitasking ADHD like I do, I'm in heaven. I'm like, yeah, well, yeah, but dude, it feels like the show goes by. We talked about this on Facebook. It feels like the show goes by in like a half hour.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It definitely went faster, and I needed to watch it again, whereas I don't usually watch it twice, because there definitely, there were times I'm trying to tweet during the commercial breaks, which is great because I hate commercials, and I'm so unused to now watching shows with commercials because I DVR everything or watch it on demand or whatever, or Netflix. And so, it's very frustrating to watch regular live television now. But this made it totally cool because during the breaks, I didn't care. I was busy tweeting. But a lot of times the tweets would end up rolling into the next segment. And that was hard because I was definitely things I probably missed.
Yeah, you're not a good typist anyway.
No, and especially not with my thumbs. Okay, so
all right,
should we get started?
Get into it.
All right, man. All right, so how many headshots?
What are we going out of 5?
Yeah.
I'll give it 4.
I give it 4.5.
Okay.
All right. So what's your good?
This is going to be an interesting episode because I actually have a couple goods and I have a couple bads.
Just to remind people, we do a good, bad, and ugly format for our description, and ugly can be either ugly as in bad or ugly as in like freaking totally so cool.
Right. So there were a couple times during this episode where the total geek fanboy in me, I was basically yelling at the TV, the holy crap moments, First of all, I got to say the overall, the pacing of the episode and how each act was broken up, each bordered by each commercial break, focused on a different group of people. It never got dull. I mean, everything was just moved, and so the overall pacing and the energy of the episode, definitely loved it. Carol's return, loved it. That was my first holy crap moment. I know that there's been again, just going around the internet and hearing that there's, a lot of people it seemed to be a groan-worthy moment for a lot of people. Like, oh, are you kidding me? I totally bought it. Like, I totally saw her, even though she got kicked out of the group, I totally buy that Carol would circle back and look back in on the group at the prison or find out what was going on. I totally bought into that.
Well, absolutely. Plus, she really cares about those two girls, and she's very worried about them. And I'm going to speculate that a lot of that worry is because I think she has insight into what Lizzie's situation is.
Well, we've said that we think that she's taking the fall for Lizzie.
We do now. Yeah, I know I didn't originally, but I do now.
So that was awesome.
Because she's terrified. Somebody's going to find out about her and then take her out.
Yeah. Well, and that was so well played by the actress. Her name escapes me. When she sees Tyrese. And Tyrese looks at her, and Tyrese comes up, gives her a hug, and she's kind of like, what the hell is this? And then kind of look at her. And she carried the weight of the burden of what she knows, in her looks and the way Tyrese was like, like almost like a puppy, like, when his master comes home, like it's just so happy to see her. And I'm not trying to disparage, the actor, or
Melissa
Tyrese.
Melissa McBride.
Right. I'm not trying to disparage the actor who plays Tyrese, because I thought he did a fantastic job as well. But it was just, he was so happy to see her, and yet she was wary, like, what do you know? And when he said, I didn't see you get out. Well, yeah, because I wasn't there. You weren't there. And she kind of gives that story and misses a couple key elements. And he was just like, oh, okay. So that was a great scene, her coming back to the group, and I love that. So
totally agree with you.
you know, we're gonna have it out here in a couple episodes. It's at some point we're gonna have it out with her and Tyrese and Daryl and Rick. And I tell you what, man, I was thinking about it last night. I really hope that Rick ends up with egg on his face if she comes out and it's just like,
you hold a grudge, man, a long time.
I do, man. I probably should see therapy. But yeah, so that was great. Clearly at the end, Abraham showing up was another holy crap moment. That was just, that's just total geekdom. And knowing how, and again, if you're not savvy of the comic books, you're going to kind of, a lot of people weighing in afterwards are like, oh, is Abraham a bad guy? And they clearly painted him as, kind of like a, almost like a hostile force, when he shows up and he was just like, oh, you got a mouth on you, don't you?
Yeah.
What else you got?
Yeah. And I think, and we've also, we've kind of been sold already on the concept that macho male, take charge kind of personality characters tend to, be dangerous in this world,
Right.
So, he's got military fatigues on, he hops out, they got the guns going, and he's like got a wisecrack, and it's like, oh boy, here we go again, you know what I mean? So yeah, I agree with you. But he, as we know from the comic, as you said, he's a fairly complicated guy, and I'm excited to see how they roll that into the TV version.
And Michael Cudlett's playing him that's just genius. I mean, I've loved this guy, Band of Brothers and Southland. I mean, this guy's just been he's awesome.
I just, as you know, as I've mentioned before, just finally getting around to watching Lost. I think he played Ana Luisa's the partner.
Yes,
Lost, right. And then we see him a second time when he's made detective in one of the flash forwards or flashbacks.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, right. Yeah, he's been around. He's very cool.
I liked now at the end, or not the end, but when Tyrese and Carol and the kids, when they come upon the sign that says Terminus.
Right.
So they mentioned Sanctuary, and you had brought up that, Sanctuary was in that radio, that little snippet of radio call that we got.
Right, I love that they brought that back.
Now, isn't Sanctuary the name of Negan's place? So everybody's listening who just thought I just threw in foreign word. Negan is another big time character.
You got Hilltop. There are a couple communities. There's Hilltop, and then there's where Ezekiel's from. What the kingdom,
right?
I think, and then I'm not. You might be right.
I think Negan's place is called Sanctuary.
You might be right, but they don't call it Sanctuary. That's a cool twist if that's what it turns out to be. You know what I mean?
So those of you who, I'm not going to spoil anything, but let's just say he's a big character.
Yeah.
I mean, when the day that he gets introduced, it'll be at the end of the season. It'll be at the end of a season. Okay. The next season's premiere. We'll have 25 million viewers. Like, it'll shatter every record because everybody's going to want to see this. Trust me.
And Terminus, I thought that was a pretty ominous name.
Oh, totally.
But I heard I think it was on Talking Dead afterwards, they were talking about that. And I guess Terminus is the actual first name that was planned for Atlanta.
Because of the railroad.
Yep. And that's where all the railroads terminated, so they were going to call it Terminus. So it's legit, but it's also a very kind of ominous name.
Which is, so it's pretty wild. So I liked Maggie's character as well. She played, I thought she played it really strong. She played it, I thought she played it really well. And her... her finding the bus and making sure that Glenn wasn't on there. I thought that was a pretty good scene. And I know I had tweeted at the beginning, but Bear McCreary's music in that opening teaser with Daryl and Beth, I didn't. didn't think much about Beth's voiceover, reading her diary, but that music. If you listen to his music in that opening sequence, holy cow, man, that stuff is like that's some pretty haunting stuff. That guy just has been knocking. He's the oh man, what's the Giacone, I think is his name, the guy who did Lost.
Yeah.
And you've been watching Lost, and the music on Lost
music
is just
not only the music but the sound effects too in Lost, just amazing. So yeah, I agree. Awesome.
so those are my goods.
Okay. Some of mine are repeats, so I won't drag on. I totally agree with you, and felt it was the structure of the episode with the multiple storylines was really well done. It was an excellent idea, the way it did. I don't think it seemed like they were trying to pull off an overlap. In other words, almost kind of like a Lost type thing where you're seeing things from one episode that then the next episode.
Kind of Rashomon, Kurosawa's telling of a crime, but it's
really
from multiple.
Right.
And each
but
has
I think
a little bit of a link.
But even more than that, it would seem like, the only time it seemed effective to me, and I didn't care for it, but that was in the Daryl sequence when they come across as some sort of camp, and then they see that there was a hurried leave, and they see the grapes crushed, and then later you see the Tyrese segment and know that was them. You also see the rabbits cut up in the wood or whatever, but the other ones didn't seem to try and link to anything else. So it was kind of like they did it there, but didn't do it anywhere else, and I thought that was a bit.
Yeah. I wish they had tried to. I wish they had tried to make it work through all the segments.
Exactly. I agree. The reintroduction of Carol, excellent. I expected it, like you said. Did not expect it here. Totally caught me off guard. I also found it to be very believable. Her surprise that he didn't know. Her weariness of him, like, is he going to like haul off and start wailing on me?
Right.
You could see it in her eyes. Thought she just did a fantastic job with that. Freaking Lizzie scares the hell out of me.
I love that.
I love her smothering that child. My heart was in my throat. You know what I mean? And it was like, I thought, in one part I was like, oh my God, they better not let her kill that baby. And then the other part of me was like, wouldn't that be like freaking wild that they saved Judith through the prison sequence only to have her get murdered by crazy Lizzie, you know what I mean?
Well, how they sold that scene too, with her smothering her and Mika's behind her calling out for help, and Mika her voice just gets distant and just and she was just Lizzie was just in the moment, and you're just like and that was
like, I'm sorry, I'm having too much fun here, smothering this little baby to help you kill a zombie.
Well, that was the thing I didn't get in the first act when you see Beth and Daryl walking through, and there was that long hold on that tree trunk, and you see those gray tufts of something in there. You saw there was something in that log. And I was just like, I don't get it. I can't quite make out what that is. I didn't know what it is. It was clearly in the foreground, so I'm supposed to be looking at it, but I didn't quite get it. And then later on, when we see that there's bunnies laying in there, then you're just like, oh, now I got it. And then once she does that, and clearly it's off camera, but when she does that, then all the tumblers fall into place. You're like, oh, okay. So she did the rabbit back in the prison. She did feeding the walkers, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And
Yeah, and then boom, we get Carol back. So it kind of like it's like really burning towards that confrontation between Carol and Tyrese,
and there was something that I think you had to see it on the rewatch when Carol is there. Lizzie says to her, "I knew you'd come back," and she says to Lizzie, she says something like, "I came back, or I had to look out for you." Or had to protect you or something. Not protect, but it was like, I had to look out for you.
Right.
And I just didn't know if that was, was that a subtle, like you, the collective you, all of you people, or or you, I have to watch out for you, you little nutcase, that I'm taking the fall for, No,
that's you're probably right. That's a great observation. There's a picture going around, a still shot from one of that scene in one of those sequences. And it's going around. It's pretty funny, and it's a picture of Carol holding the baby and Lizzie and Sasha. No, not Sasha. What's the other girl's name? Mika, and then Tyrese and Lizzie. Everyone's like looking at each other and they're engaged and whatever. And Lizzie is staring with this look of like utter contempt and hatred at baby Judith. And it's really funny because it just does. I mean, you wouldn't really pay much attention to it until somebody points it out. And then you look at it and you go, oh my God, she's like totally detached from whatever else is going on in that scene. And all she's doing is she's just giving this nasty look to that baby. It's pretty funny.
But what about Tyrese? I mean, Tyrese, again, great acting from him. Where first of all, here's this big guy, and
right.
and he's got to take care of these kids, and then he's got a baby that's screaming, that's basically bringing all the horde from North Dakota down on him, and he's got this girl who goes, well, you can't be, so when she said to Mika, she's like, well, you can't be Sasha because you're still here. And you just see Tyrese like, what do I say to that? Well,
wait a minute, where's my hammer?
But there were a couple of times when he's looking at the girls. There's this exasperation on his face, like, man, I wish I had boys. I don't know what to do here.
I totally agree, and I think he did an amazing job. And I think that it was. I just can't even imagine how horrible that scenario would be. I mean, first of all, they're not even your kids. And you've all of a sudden got this burden of responsibility. You've got a baby, which you can't carry a baby for miles and miles and miles in your arms. No. I mean, he's got no papoose. He's got two little kids who can't carry her sometimes.
And that thing is huge.
Yeah, that's a big baby. That's a big baby. But
you see the teeth in that? Did you see the teeth in that thing's mouth?
I heard there's
she's like two.
Talking Dead, they showed a little clip where they put like little information bits from the episode, and there's something like 6 pairs of twins or something that they flop in and out for those, or some like 3 or 4 sets of twins. I don't know. There's like 6 baby Judas or something like that. Anyway, the only thing
it's probably no joke. It's probably child labor laws where seriously, where I think there's different levels for different ages. They can only be like infants or 1-year-olds can only be on set involved for
so long.
X hours, an hour.
Oh yeah, you're probably right. You're probably right.
So that's probably why they have to have.
And then they use a dummy. They use dolls for any of the action sequences and stuff. But
and for the smothering.
Yeah, for the smothering. Oh God, that was so horrible. So horrible. The only thing that I've had trouble with in that sequence, and I mean, in later retrospect, I certainly can understand it from the point of view of the character, but when he leaves the two of them, I was like, I was saying out loud, no. Once you're responsible for children, you can't leave them, especially not in like a battlefield scenario. Now, granted, he's alone. If he goes and helps those people and he can salvage some support, he'll have help. He has a better chance of keeping them alive. But at the same time, it's just like, oh my gosh, all my instincts were like, no, you do not leave those 2 children. You know what I mean?
No, that was, and that's
3
actually going to be
children,
one of my that's going to be one of my bads. Is I thought that was one of the dumbest things. And Tyrese knows better. I mean, you basically left them with with an air raid siren in their arms, and
right.
while you go off, and it's you gave Mika the gun.
Right.
So yeah, I thought that was a dumb idea.
Yeah, totally. That I was buying that. All right. Well, speaking of bad, my real only big bad from the whole thing was the Daryl and Beth storyline. I just felt. I mean, other than the intro, which I thought was good, the with the voiceover, which was a little heavy-handed. But I liked the structure of it. The voiceover while you're watching them trying to escape the zombies, passing out practically in these fields. I really got a sense for the exasperation. But the overall arc of that particular story, which was pretty brief, actually, compared to the others, I didn't buy that Daryl would shut down like he did in that. And also I felt it was almost kind of a similar storyline to Michonne's, that here was this guy who was a badass, who's, always been holding back, all of his emotion and a connection to other people. He finally opens up to the prison, and then they all get ripped apart. So he reverts back to his old uncaring self, rude to her, saying things like, well, Faith didn't help your father much. That's old Daryl. That's the Daryl back when he was with Merle. And I felt like we'd already seen it with the Michonne character. That it was like telling the same story. Two, I didn't buy it that he would do that. I just felt like he's more of a man of action, and he was going to be like on a mission to get her and him back connected with the rest of the group. He's going to know that the others survived, and so I thought that was the weakest of all the storylines in that particular episode. You're bad.
So I agree with you. That annoyed me a lot. It annoyed me a lot because, first of all, let's take a look at what we got here. We got a prison, okay? It's basically like a big shopping mall, right? So you've got clearly there's a road that leads in.
I don't know what shopping malls you go to, but that's not like any shopping mall I've ever been to.
Oh man, you go to shopping malls in Cleveland? Yeah,
I was going to say you got to stop going to shopping malls in the South Bronx.
No, but so you got a big facility that basically equates to a shopping mall, the way it's spread out in acreage. Okay, so clearly there's a road that doesn't lead up where the governor came up. There's a road that leads out the other way because that's where the bus went. Okay, so assuming that knowing that you can't, let's just call it north, knowing you can't go north because that's where the governor brought all the zombies and everybody's infiltrating the prison, you have 3 other directions to go. So knowing that that's basically your radius of where you ran to, everybody's acting like they've each run to a different continent and they're nowhere near anybody else. Like,
no, you're right. It's
true. When
like they wouldn't be like, "Psst, hey, Rick."
There's only so many places you can go in
that
amount of
I can
time.
believe it. I can believe it in terms of Rick and Carl and maybe Michonne because they go to the totally opposite direction as the bus.
Right.
So they're kind of heading, south, and the rest of them are heading north. You know what I mean? But everybody that was in the prison, I agree with you. They all head out the same way. I don't understand how they wouldn't run into each other.
Right. So Daryl in the beginning. So when Daryl's just all mopey, or as I like to say, early season 3 Rick, and he's just kind of sitting there, like you said, all shut down. No, he wouldn't. He would know. Being a tracker and everything, he would know, okay, look, this is where they probably went. This group went here. We can hook up with them here. But no, he's just completely out of it.
Well, you know what? You may have just explained why the writers chose to have him shut down. Because what made me think of this was even what you just said. He would track them down and use his tracking skills. And she says to him, Beth does, why aren't you tracking them? You're a tracker.
Right.
Forget it. I'll do it then. And she gets up in the middle of the night and goes off in the dark. Right. I'm not believing that at all. Lame. but still, to your point, maybe the writers were trying to say, you know what? In reality, this guy would probably track them down. So we need to put him in crisis so that he can't use those skills, which helps keep them all separated for a while. I don't know. Maybe they felt like if they didn't do that, then they would have a hard time explaining how he couldn't find them.
It felt like they were trying to jam Beth down our throats. It felt like it was that, whatever mental image I just conjured with that. This is a family program, and anyway.
Well, it was right up until then.
But it seemed pretty heavy-handed with Beth, that all of a sudden she was going to be, I'll take charge and I'll find them. And
I agree, and that was my other point was that I didn't buy that he would fall apart and like he did, and I didn't buy that she would man up so well after seeing her dad killed, being separated from her sister.
Oh my God! If anybody's going to shut down and go back to suicidal that she was,
exactly.
season 2? Exactly. I mean, it would be her.
Yeah, I didn't buy that either.
I didn't like that pairing, and I
like the pairing. I like the pairing. I was looking forward to the pairing. I thought that would be great. In fact, I was kind of hoping that it would be the beginning of some sort of spark of fire between the two of them, maybe, or interest as a possible couple. But
character-wise, yes. Acting-wise, no. I mean, Norman Reedus really shows, even when he's just sitting there, kind of brooding. Norman Reedus just carries weight.
Yeah.
And she was just too bubbly and just so my bads over the episode there are a lot of little nitpicks. I mean, there are a lot of things that stand out to me, but they weren't enough to really rob me of this episode. So stuff like Beth. Okay, how many? one of the things that plagues this show is that we are watching combat veterans. We are watching people who have been in this thing, who've seen all these zombies. They're not fresh. It's not like some Wall Street suit who walked out of Goldman Sachs and like right into the middle of a zombie horde. Oh my God, I don't know what to do. These guys have been around. The stuff they've seen, the stuff they've done. And they still do dumb things. Okay, so like Beth, when they're going along and they see like the two bodies on the ground.
Right.
What does Beth do? Well, some badass she is. She walks right over the bodies. I mean, given what you know about all these, the Walking Dead and all that stuff, you'd give these things like a wide berth.
Yeah.
Excellent tracking skills on Daryl and Beth. When she's standing there and she looks back at him and she's talking to him, all of a sudden you hear a rustle in the woods. She looks to her left. The camera goes to the right, where you're in the woods. You just heard twigs snapping. The zombie's coming from behind her, where she's not even looking. Daryl's not even looking in the same direction, and it like sneaks up, like awful.
Yeah. That stuff never doesn't really ever bother me. I mean, I understand and I agree with what you're saying, but in the heat of the episode, I tend not to. That stuff doesn't tend to like stick out in my.
Dude,
me.
if you're standing there, it's dead quiet, and trees start snapping, you're going to be looking in the right direction. You're not going to be looking, what? What's over there?
You're going to be standing back to back.
I thought I gigged Sasha for this, but then I let her off the hook because I think she's not as savvy when it comes to the quote unquote battleground as everybody else. But when they're at the back of the bus and Bob, who was remarkably chipper this episode. I mean, he doesn't even have a bottle near him, and he was like, "There's going to be a Bob Sasha hookup." I mean, this is like the Walking Dead dating game.
Well, he's trying. He's trying.
It totally is. So she has got an automatic weapon that she lays down on the ground, like underneath where the zombies are going to be coming out of the back of the bus. So basically, if she gets into trouble, she's going to have to reach for a gun that all the zombies are falling onto. Glenn mans up in what is probably going to be this holiday season's like hottest action figure, like Power Ranger Glenn, right? Did you see how he came out? He's got all the gear on. And he's like, mentally, he kind of is like, all right, let's do this. Runs into the courtyard where all the zombies are. Runs into the middle of the pack of zombies. Could have like skirted around where it's thin and gotten around. No.
Oh, come on. Give me a break. That was serious. Cool. That was cool,
That's
man.
That's why you do it.
That's right. It's cool.
At the end when he collapses and Tara's on top of him, wake up, and then she, knocks that zombie out. You don't hear a truck of that size like a mile away until it's like right up on top of you. Yeah. But the big thing is it's just what I've already talked about where it's especially with Glenn. If he knew that that he should have gone where the bus was. Again, everybody just was like, oh my God, the prison blew up. Woe is us. We're never going to. It's all over. Everybody's gone. It just seems like nobody was doing any thinking. And you've been doing a lot of thinking since you've been in this zombie apocalypse.
But listen, in their defense, they've also been stagnant for how long? 6 months, I think, maybe more. They've been in that prison, and
I don't know if you look at Judith, she's like 2. So
So they've gotten complacent. I think that was that's part of the whole message of the episode, the last couple episodes too, is that, and the season, in fact, is that they had reached a level of complacency and as a result made themselves much more vulnerable and obviously weren't prepared. I mean, they, sadly, why isn't there like an escape plan? Why isn't there like, if crap hits the fan, we're all going to meet here? You know what I mean? Nothing like that. They all just kind of like scatter like bugs,
Yeah, and Beth probably touched on that in the beginning with her voiceover, reading from her diary, which was, we could be here forever for the rest of our lives.
Yeah, there you go. I think you got it exactly. I think that was the message. The message was they had gotten soft, and as a result, they're a mess, and they're not prepared for this, even though they thought they were, because they're all thinking like you, hey, we survived out there on our own for, a year or 6 months or whatever. We're hard as nails. Well, for 6 months, you've been becoming farmers and haven't had to deal with it. And now all of a sudden you're in this mess and people are just smashed all over the place and loved ones are dead. And it's like, all of a sudden it's chaos and you completely forgot how to deal with this, and
so
you got to learn it over again.
So it'd be interesting when they show up at Sanctuary or Terminus or wherever it is, they show up there that they, immediately have to be okay. We're not falling in that trap again. We're not going to get fat, dumb, and happy here. What's our exit plan? What are you guys doing? What do you have in place to get us out of here or to escape? Blah, blah, blah. So it'd be interesting if they take that mentality forward, or if we just rinse and repeat. Next season.
I hope that they don't bring Negan in now. I really think that would be a big mistake. I mean, there's so much else they can do from the comics prior to that. I mean, there's the whole Hunter storyline. There's the whole going to DC. There's the whole Community and all that. And it's like, man, I just I hope that's not where this is going. But
I agree. I think because maybe next season.
Yeah.
And the next season.
All right. So I'm going to move on to Ugly. I've got. Let's see, two scenes, two things that I write down as ugly, and these are uglies as in freaking outstanding ugly. I thought the entire sequence with Maggie, Sasha, and Bob was like off the hook. I thought Bob all of a sudden was growing on me. He was more likable, like you said. I particularly liked that he stuck by Maggie. That he stood up to Sasha and said, we need to stick together, and if she's pig-headed on doing this, then we got to go with her. You know what I mean? Yeah. I don't know. There was just I just all of a sudden, for the first time, I really haven't liked him at all. For the first time, I liked him, and that of course scares me because now they'll probably kill him. Yep. But I thought Lauren Cohan's performance was freaking stellar. And she hasn't had much to work with so far this season. They haven't really done much with her. And this was I just thought her scraping the knife, the knife, again, didn't need a whole monologue. We just needed to see how freaked out she was, you know what I mean? And determined she was, and pissed at herself for leaving him and not being with him. And all of that was all wrapped up in that performance. It was just done with her face and her expression, her posture, the way she was doing the knife on the stone. I was just blown away. And then I love too that, she wasn't going to fight with him. She was just like, this is what I'm doing. I don't care what you do. And she had kind of lost her mind, and I just was really impressed with that. And then the whole scene with the bus was just, again, off the hook. On a par with Michonne last episode's takedown of all those zombies she's walking with, when all those zombies are piling out of that bus. Especially when she's mashing that head of that one zombie against the side of the bus. I mean, that's not Maggie. You know what I mean? Yeah. And yet she was just so over the edge. Yeah. That she was going through them like freaking Arnold Schwarzenegger, and so I that was awesome. And I loved the twist with Glenn. And that, she was so determined to find out. And then you see the guy with the black hair and the black shirt and the zombie. And then she kills it, but you don't see it. And she's crying. And you're like, oh, man, that was Glenn. And then, she starts to laugh, almost this maniacal like laugh, And I was like, she just did an absolutely fantastic job, I thought. And the only criticism I have is at AMC, and that's for putting Glenn in the freaking preview for next week's episode, because it undercut that scene,
right?
Because they showed him waking up with the zombies below him in the preview. Why they did not need to do that.
That's why I tweeted when she got on the bus. That's why I tweeted, was he on top of the bus? Because I had that same image in my head.
Right, exactly. And it was so perfectly done. And then they cut right from that to him waking up with all those zombies underneath him. And it's like, oh shit, he stayed back at the prison. And it was like, oh, it was just a home run. They just dropped the ball when they showed it in the previews. And to my own fault, because I shouldn't watch the previews. And so this week I made a point of not watching it because I don't want to be spoiled like that again. But that was my only criticism of that scene. So that was my first of my two uglies. And then the second was Now, you and I are probably going to disagree with it. I know we are because you already went on it, but I just thought Glenn at the prison was fantastic as well. I thought it was the best performance from him in a long time. The range of emotion from like total kind of bewilderment when he wakes up to heart wrenching, pain and loss from what's happened, to waking up and kind of realizing I got to get my shit together. I got to get organized. I got to get a plan, and I got to get out of here, and I got to find my wife. And I was impressed to that whole range of emotion. And again, no dialogue was necessary. He did it all with, body posture and emotion and actions. And I was just really impressed with that. I loved that. Plus it showed him to be, in my opinion, he's a smart guy. I mean, the first season, second season, Glenn was a smart guy. He saved Rick. He knows how to survive among the zombies. He was the runner for the group, and his putting together the things he's going to need. I'm going to need the lighter. I'm going to need a backpack. By the way, did you notice what backpack that was? The orange backpack that he uses?
No.
That's the backpack from the guy that was on the road that Rick and Michonne and Carl didn't stop for.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
And so I was impressed with his kind of return. And then the return of the riot gear. I just think, it's just so cool. And I remember I tweeted, because they did that camera shot from inside the helmet.
Yeah.
And I remember tweeting, like, too bad the riot gear helmets don't come with wiper blades,
I know.
Because there's all the guts and everything on them. But I agree with you. It was stupid for him to dive into and try and surf the zombie wave. But
he goes into a zombie mosh pit.
Right, exactly what it was. But I still loved it. I thought it was so cool. The thing that wasn't believable is if he got overpowered like he was. I mean, he just completely gets swarmed. I mean, that wasn't like body armor in the sense that like every inch. I mean, there's
Right.
There's padding and then there's just material, and they would have gotten him, and but I'm willing to go with it because it was so damn cool. And he probably would never have been strong enough, especially not still recovering from that wicked flu, to be able to throw him off and move on. But again, I went with it because I loved it. And it was such a cool scene. And I loved that he stopped for Tara. How horrifying that the way they did that with her. I mean, I really felt for her. I mean, here she is. She's just sit in this locked cage, surrounded by all these zombies and all this horror and destruction that she helped create, and she's just completely shut down. And I just thought that was cool, and I thought it was really cool that he stopped. Now, granted, he said, "Look, I'm not saving you for you. I'm saving you because I need you," which was cool and very believable. But I also think that Glenn's just a good guy, and he would have stopped and tried to save her anyway.
Well, I like too. I like too how he says he's the dude with the body armor, right? So typically, if you've got a tank, right, and you're in a Yugo, you send the tank first to clear the path because you've got the armor to. What does he say to her? You go first so I can cover you.
I know.
You go first for fodder, and then I'll just run around you.
I like too though that they put in a little subtle thing too, where he grabs her gun and he opens it up. And he looks at it and he says, "You didn't fire a shot."
Yeah.
And it was cool because it was kind of like not a test by him, but it was kind of like a realization that she was not really part of this, and therefore made it okay for him to save her. But no, that was crazy that he sends her out first. And the other thing was, I'm sorry, but since when do zombies get attracted to fire?
Oh, thank you very much.
What was that? I was so psyched. Excellent. Bob's booze is finally gonna be put to good use. He's gonna Molotov cocktail these zombies and light them up, and then when they're all roasted, he's gonna run out with her. And instead, he like firebombs a broken down car, and they all go walking over there. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah, just start lighting bonfires and just walk away from everybody. I mean,
I know. I was that was a little weird. There's been no precedent set for that. There was no previous episode where they said, "Oh, they're attracted to heat or fire or anything like that." So those are my two big uglies. I thought they were the most powerful parts and most enjoyable parts of the show for me.
The actress who plays Tara, when they were on the road and Glenn asked, the old guy, was the old guy's name Herschel? And she says, yeah. And the
yeah.
emotion that she had. And it was funny because I made a note about Beth's. I was not a big fan of Emily Kinney, who played Beth. Was not a big fan of her acting in this episode.
Right.
She hasn't had this is probably like her biggest role that she's had so far. I mean, her biggest involvement thus far. Wasn't impressed with it. And it culminated in like the lowest point for her was when she was fake crying on the edge of the railroad. I mean, it was just awful. You compare that performance with Tara's at the end with Glenn, and how she wasn't bawling, but she was like the emotion that she portrayed, how sorry she was for her involvement. I mean, two completely different of acting. And hers was so much more believable, so much more powerful. I gained a lot of respect for her.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I didn't care for her in the previous episodes, Tara. I didn't think she was anything particularly great. But I was very impressed with her performance in this. I thought the character was had some redemption, but I think the funny thing is there's all this talk online and everything about how people are speculating that she's going to become part of the group. I don't think she's got a long time on the on the horizon. But I wouldn't be surprised to see her get knocked off next week.
Well, see, and that's one of the things. It's going back to the bus scene. There's one line I wish they hadn't put in there. I wish that Bob hadn't said when they talk about the people on the bus. Bob said, they were all great people. Everyone. What did he say? Yeah, they were good people, all of them. How would you know? We never saw these people. When did you ever interact with these? They were fodder from the jump.
Yeah, I know, but that was
put that line in there.
That was to try and put some emotional impact to the fact that those were all dead people now, because they'd been living with them for a couple of months since they burned down Woodbury, but for like 6 months or something. But I agree with you. The show didn't spend much time developing any of them, so there really wasn't a lot of care about them from me as a viewer.
I lost my after I went on I think that was a tangent of mine because I lost my the path that
we were talking about Tara and whether she'd be sticking around.
Yeah. So that scene, I know everybody was like, oh my gosh, is Glenn in there? I did not. There are three things I have not been worried about, and I haven't even been on the edge of my seat concerned about in the past two episodes. One, that Rick turned into a zombie last week. No, that was never even in the cards. Two, that Glenn, even if you hadn't seen the previews, that Glenn was going to get zombified. No, that wasn't going to happen. And that Judith was dead. Those were three things that you couldn't have been on your seat.
I would agree with you on all but Glenn and
really, you think they would have taken Glenn
out?
Yeah,
I do, and I thought that maybe they were gearing up that way, and I did, and the only thing that kept me from thinking it was because of the preview. When I saw what was happening and when she stuck the knife in his head, I was like, oh man, maybe she just killed him. That would be so like freaking wild. And then I thought, oh, but I saw the preview and I know he's we haven't even seen that yet, so. I was kind of spoiled, but if I hadn't been spoiled, I think I would have like thought that was definitely a possibility. At least I hope that they would have to do that, but I definitely agree. But the Rick thing, I never went for that because that's right out of the book. And that's right out of the comic.
I forgot about that.
He reaches over for Carl. He's mumbling. And Carl's standing there with a gun. He's like terrified he's going to have to shoot him, and he's like, I can't. I mean, that was right out of the book, so I knew what was coming there. Judith, I kind of knew that too, but I thought maybe Glenn they would do.
Well, before I get to what my ugly is, I kind of hope Glenn gets bumped off because I've turned him into a drinking game. Every time Glenn cries, drink. And I've gone through a couple bottles so far in just this season. So,
well, I think you've started to see the return of the old Glenn.
God, I hope so. I mean, it was fantastic that he got his skirt into the body armor. He tucked it in.
You're vicious. That was good. You're vicious. Funny, but vicious.
My ugly is like yours was a good ugly, and that is Lizzie. Yeah. I love the fact that there's this girl who's bent. And I think what makes it interesting is that when you have an adult who's bent, you do like what Rick does. You just go, oh, you're out of the club. You're weird. You're a psycho. Can't trust you around. Go here. Here's a backpack. Get going. But when you've got a child that's that way, you can't just take the kid and go, okay, it's not Lord of the Flies. You can't just send them out and no. There's got to be somehow you got to rehab them or you got to do something to change the kid.
Right.
Now, since we've read the comic book, we know what she's analogous to, the character that she's analogous to.
Right.
And I think it's even money. I think it's pretty much a solid bet that Carol's covering for her. But I really, that's what I'm hoping that it ends up being, that she was.
Yeah, I agree. And I hope that they also follow the book in terms of how it gets resolved. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
And I think they're definitely going that way. And I think for exactly the reason you say that, and which is the way Kirkman wrote it in the book. I mean, you are faced with a whole different set of issues when you're talking about a child.
Absolutely. Yep.
But anyway, I totally agree with you on that one.
So I was, and you know what? Again, acting wise, I like the girl. I like the actress. I thought she did really well.
Yeah, she does a good job. She does a really good job.
And I like how they filmed all those things. The director on this one was Trisha Brock, and I like how the things were filmed. The stuff, the rabbits off scene. You didn't even have to see the bloody knife or any of that stuff. You heard a couple sound effects that kind of sold it. And then if you went back and you watched that prior scene, you figured out what those little gray nubs in the log were. I just and the way when she was with Judith and the sound where you just they sold that she was just in the moment because everything else started to fade away behind her. I thought they handled it really well, and she was my ugly for the week.
Cool. Let's see, zombie of the week. Hard to say. There was so many in this one. I'm going with the zombies at the roadside with Glenn passed out because there was something about the design of those particular zombies that just scared the piss out of me. They were really paley white and gangly, and and then he passed out, and it was just a terrifyingly scary scene, Yeah. And I thought that they were great. My zombie kill of the week, again, too many to choose from. I already said I really loved the sequence with Maggie and the bus, but I'd say a bunch of the Tyrese Hammer kills were like off the map. They were off
the side at the railroad, the side shot when he claws the guy's head off.
Yeah, like half the head comes off.
The brain pan just opened up, man.
Those were powerful. Those were great. And then I'm giving Maggie and Glenn individually characters of the week. So those are my zombie and zombie kill and character. What's yours?
Well, my kill of the week is Maggie on the. While it was a tough call. I got to go with the gold to Maggie with the head against the school bus and the silver to Tyrese and his hammer. Zombie of the week. There was one thing I noticed. Remember we had talked about earlier this season about how the zombies seem to be deteriorating and they seem to be getting like uglier, slower, just like they were almost like if you just pushed on them, they would just disintegrate.
Right.
The zombies in this one were too pretty. They were too fresh. They were too they looked too good. So maybe our theory that we had that the zombies are kind of maybe that wasn't maybe we weren't onto something. That would be the first time we were wrong, right? Have we been wrong yet? I don't think so.
No. They came out and even said though when they prior to the season, like Nicotero in interviews and stuff, and said that they were going to start trying to up the decay of the zombies because of the time that's extended, and I think they definitely put a concerted effort into that. But I think that may have either fallen by the wayside, or when you've got a scenario where there were a lot of zombie scenes in this episode.
There were, yeah.
I mean, you went back to the prison, which was flooded with zombies. Then you had the bus, you had the railroad tracks, you had the side of the road. You had a bunch of incidents in the woods. There was a lot of zombies, so they probably just, it's probably budgetary and everything else in terms of showing decay. Any character of the weeks for you? Probably Lizzie, huh?
Yeah, Lizzie.
Figured
Lizzie's
that.
my character of the week.
Okay.
Zombie of the week. I didn't really. No one really stuck out to me above all else. So I didn't really have one.
Right. Some additional thoughts. My only additional thought was you already hit on it, and that was the intro scene with Abraham and Eugene and Rosita. I thought was awesome, and we talked about that. But I don't know. I don't think we pointed out, but it exactly matches the cover to issue 53 of the comic. And there's even an image going around the internet now you can easily find, I'm sure if you Google it, that we can post it up as well at our Facebook page, that puts the shot of the three of them alongside a shot of issue 53's cover. And it's down right to the positioning of the characters and what they're wearing and everything else. And then I heard on Talking Dead, the girl that plays Tara was saying that Gimple was on the set when they were shooting that sequence, and he had a copy of 53 with him, and he had made copies and handed it out to everybody and said it has to look just like
that's
this.
Cool.
Yeah, so it definitely feels, the things, a lot of things we've been seeing, they really seem to have gone more closely to the source material, really pulling from that. And I think it's great. I think when they do that, it wins, Yeah. Definitely. That's it for me. We can move on to news.
Yeah. Well, do we want to give?
Let's do a shout out to. We got some fans finally writing in, and we're glad to hear it. Yeah, woo! It's too late for me to make noises like that. my vocal cords are shut down. But yes, we're really pumped. And we've got a gentleman named Abi Q, and I apologize profusely if I'm totally messing up that name, Abi. But we really appreciate your contacting us through Facebook. He reviewed the episode using our format, so I'm gonna call out some of the highlights here. He gave the episode 3 headshots. So he's right in there, and he thought the good was Carol and Tyrese and the 3 piglets.
I love that.
I love that. That was awesome. He said, "I'm glad Carol found Ty. The conversation was just eerie, the way she went about it, the whole Rick situation. Certainly interesting to see what comes about all this." We couldn't agree more, Abby. We think that was a really well done sequence, as we said. His bad was, you're going to love this, Glenn and Maggie. "Take me back to season 2, Glenn and Maggie," he says. "I don't know why, but there's just not writing those two properly." And
Abby, you're my man. You and I, same wavelength.
That's right. Well, hopefully we're going to see some change in that, because I tell you, I thought Maggie was great this time, and I think they're doing a better job with Glenn. So hopefully that'll keep moving that way. Abby's ugly was a good ugly. And again, I think Abby and Jeff are soulmates here. "Lizzie legitimately scares me. I just can't imagine what's to come from this. The look in those eyes are not that of a child. Great little actress." So he's definitely on the Lizzie train, which we totally agree with. His Walker kill for the week was when Tara defends Glenn. He says, "The knife went through the skull, face, and almost reached the neck. Great kill. Hope she sticks around." I wouldn't count on it too much, Abby, but maybe. I would like to see her stick around too. His character of the week was Tyrese, I assume he means. Yeah. The impending black cloud hanging over Ty's head, watching over a potential psychopath, her sister, and the crying baby. Regrouping with a woman who is potentially a murderer or covering up for a murderer. Again, the loss of his crew and lost sister. Good luck, Ty. Wouldn't want to be in those shoes. Oh, man, I totally agree, Abby, there. Wouldn't want to be in any of these guys' shoes. Closing, he said, "Daryl and Beth, let's just say I miss Merle and Andrea." That was great. The combination of Smiley Bob and Tough Sasha is great. I thought I was going to dislike Sasha, but I'm digging her. Very tough and straightforward. Yeah, I agree, Abby. I think Sasha's a super great addition, and I hope she sticks around.
the whole thing with Bob and Sasha in this episode, it was just such a natural, just there wasn't anything forced or like Tara. Remember Tara when she the conversation she had with that other girl and they were talking about weapons. Oh, I like my whatever it was. They were talking weapons and it was like that flirty, and it was just kind of like really kind of heavy. You could tell that was like heavy force writing.
Right.
This thing, if this develops into anything, but even just a little flirty here that was going on, we've seen it before with Carol and Daryl, and just it's just like cutesy kind of stuff that's just natural and just feels, and it just worked in this episode.
Well, I'll tell you, there's very little humor or levity in any of Walking Dead, and so when it happens, it's great, And sadly, Herschel used to do a lot of it with his little comments,
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree. It's nice and refreshing. I also think that I think the situation with Bob and why all of a sudden he seemed likable is less a reflection on the actor and much more a reflection of the way they wrote him. I think that they intentionally wanted him to be suspect. They wanted us to wonder about him. They wanted us to think, he's a bit of a stranger. He's got the drinking problem. Is he a plant of the governor's? Is he putting the stuff at the fence? They wanted him to be suspect. So they wrote him in a way that he was a bit untrustworthy and problematic and a possible loose cannon. Now I think all of that plot line has been worked out, and there's no need for that now. Now he's a member of the group, and they can kind of let him develop in a new direction. So that's my reason, I think, for why he seemed to change almost overnight. The last part of Abi's letter I want to read, because he came up with a new addition to our format, and I think it's pretty cool. He said 3 quotes, 3 rounds. And he's got 3 quotes that he thought were really cool from 3 different characters. One was, "We can't go back to a graveyard" by Carol. It was a cool line.
Yeah.
"All we have to do is believe, and that's what I'm going to do." That was Glenn. I thought that was very cool. And hope you enjoyed the show, a-holes, Tara.
Yeah.
So, and then he closed with "Bites kill you," which might be a nice tagline for us.
Yeah, right.
All right. So, Abi, thank you so much for writing in. It's
one of Abi's first posts on Facebook was he said he had found us through from our appearance on the Walking Dead cast, and he decided to give us a listen. And it was funny because his posting is like, "Yeah, you guys sound like you got good chemistry, blah blah blah, and pretty insightful." And I didn't think it was really cool that you were taking I'm paraphrasing here. I didn't think it was really cool that you guys were taking a dump on the whole Atlanta thing. And I was like, "Whoa!" But then he
the 2 governor episodes.
Yeah, but then he follows up. He's like, "Well, hey, you're allowed your opinion, and that's cool." So
we like the honesty, Abi. We definitely like the honesty, and we need to know sometimes when we're getting a little carried away. So anyway, people definitely, if you write in, we'll try to get your comments on the show. You can post at the Facebook site, obviously, but another way to reach us is at biterspodcast@gmail.com, and we have neglected to mention that, and we will start making sure we mention that, because sometimes maybe email is easier for people. Some people like to do email, some people like to post on Facebook. So again, biterspodcast@gmail.com, or at Facebook. You can reach us there. Jeff?
So now that we've done with the show, we'll talk about a couple of extra things. One thing that's going on now that's near and dear to my heart is Toy Fair. International Toy Fair is going on at the Javits Center.
Amen. I have yet to ever go to that, and it pisses me off. But
I keep trying to go, but it's like
it's hard.
Insiders only. And,
yeah, you got to get invited from somebody in the industry.
So
just once, but
there's pictures going around about all the lines that people are putting out, and one of them, of course, is Walking Dead. You can see one of our sponsors is Entertainment Earth, so you can always check out if you go to the Biters podcast site at southgatemediagroup.com. You can see on our page there's a link to Entertainment Earth that will pull up all the Walking Dead figures and zombie stuff that they've got there. But one thing that's going on, so at Toy Fair now, McFarlane Toys, who makes arguably some of the best action figures on the market, McFarlane's booth unveiled their lineup for this year. There is, there's a Glenn with a. There's a Glenn.
I should get you that for your birthday.
Oh my gosh. There's a Tyrese, really cool Tyrese figure. There's there's a bunch of really cool figures. There's a 10-inch, a couple 10-inch deluxe figures. There's a 10-inch Rick Grimes.
That's really cool. The sculpt on that was awesome.
Yeah, it's awesome. There's a Shane, I believe, in 10-inch, and there's also a Daryl, and the Daryl one looks awesome. They also showed what if you're a collector of the DVD series, season 3 of the DVDs comes in a special box, and the box looks like all the TVs with all those fish tanks, the aquariums with the heads in them that the governor had in his room, which is really cool. This one has a
so this will be for season 4.
This is for season 4. Shows a tree walker. I mean, this thing is basically half Swamp Thing, a
little bit of Man Thing,
zombie. Yeah, it's pretty creepy. But those sculpts are cool. But by far, and I'll try to remember to put this on the Facebook site, is the statue that they have. It is Rick as sculpted as Rick looks in the comic book. He's got. And in the comic book, Rick loses a hand. I mean, that's not much of a spoiler. Pretty much everybody knows that. And if you look at the statue, you're going to figure it out anyway. He's got a zombie around the crook of his...
look at that statue. Must be broken. He's missing a hand.
Spoiler. So he's got his arm around choking out one zombie, if you can do that. And he's got a foot on the chest of another zombie coming at him while he's blowing the thing's brains out. And they even have cast in the statue a little muzzle flash, like a puff of smoke. The back of the zombie's head is coming out like an inch or so. Dude, it is like the coolest statue. And apparently last year's Michonne statue sold out in about, 3 seconds after it came out. So I'll post this up on the website. Definitely, you want to get your hands on this thing.
I definitely want that.
I'm probably going to buy 10 and then sell them on eBay for 3 times cost. So get in early.
It is. It's beautiful. We got to remember to post that on Facebook. Another little piece of news is issue 27 of the comic. They posted over at 127. I'm so sorry. That's right. 127. Over at Skybound, the Walking Dead portion of the Skybound site, under news and events, they have the Walking Dead 127 cover and big news. And the cover is pretty interesting because it's a new character, and it's a really badass looking woman who's got a crew behind her, a bunch of zombies down below. She's standing up on top of what looks like either the top of a truck or the top of a container, like at a loading dock or something, and there's all these zombie hands coming up from the bottom. But there's just this kind of sense that this is a whole new character and a whole new crew of people. And then that kind of corresponds with a bunch of news that reports, I guess, that Kirkman is making that after the all-out war, that there's going to be huge changes in the book. Now, that could just be, I don't know, hype to get us to buy it. But there's a little bit of a feeling like, because first of all, you got this cover. There's like, where's Michonne? Where's Eugene? Where's Rick? Where's Carl? Where's the characters that we're accustomed to? So could be just hype to get people feeling like, well, maybe more people are going to die in the end of the war series or the war storyline. But I don't know. It looks ominous.
What if the end of All Out War? Rick and crew, they overcome Negan, they win, and then that's basically the end of their storyline for now. And then we basically start up with a brand new somewhere else, this is in Atlanta, maybe they're up in DC or they're up in Boston or whatever, and this is like another band of people, and it's we're gonna run with them for 30 or 40 issues, and then bring the two together. Because
it could be. I mean, it could be. I don't know. And Kirkman has a history of using his covers to manipulate you in terms of what the story is going to be about. So I'm a little apprehensive to read too much into this cover, because he does he's got lots of covers in the first 100 issues where there was one I remember in particular where Rick is on the cover looking through a fence again, and a zombie. He and a zombie are face to face on a fence, and the zombie looks just like a dead Lori. Do you remember that? Yeah, and you were like, oh man, in this issue, Lori must die, and of course she didn't. So ominously, though, we learned down the road she did, so maybe it was a precursor. But there were a lot of covers like that. So this may just be another one of those. One of those types of turns. The other important bit of news about 127, which is the first issue after the All-Out War, is that it's going to be 48 pages.
Yes.
So that's kind of cool. So looking forward to that, and I thought our listeners might be interested.
Somebody posted on Walking Dead forums that one of the theories is maybe that it's a time jump forward, and that this is actually Maggie and Glenn's child in the future.
Oh wow! No, I hadn't heard that. That's cool.
The group.
Well, that's funny that you said that, but was it? I don't know if we talked about it last week or if we talked about it on forums or on Facebook, or I don't remember where. But that's partly because of my decrepit brain and my age. But
I'm not going to argue with you.
Yeah, I noticed you didn't jump in there to say, "Oh no, you're being too critical."
No, you're spot on. You're
spot on. That's pretty accurate. That's a good. That's accurate. The idea. Oh, I remember where it came from. The contest that we did with Walking Dead cast, Karen and Jason, and that their contest was, what's the best spinoff idea, and a bunch of people. I feel bad that I haven't listened to that episode yet, but they announced the winner. But there was a bunch of people who wrote 20 or more suggestions on what the spinoff should be, and then we got the chance to vote on it and everything else. One of them was about the Judith growing up, and in that Rick decides to leave her with this community that would be better suited to raise her. And then we jump forward to her being 25 or something like that, and she goes off, and she's this hardened, badass zombie survivalist, and she goes off to find out what happened to Rick and Carl and her family, and what her past is. And I just thought, man, that was just I would watch that show, man. I would definitely watch that show. That would be a really cool idea for a spinoff, to not stay within this time frame, stay with this world, but jump forward, but because then you would have the two series going, they could have overlapping storylines, but they're just 10, 20 years apart. You know what I mean?
Well, you'd have to think that, you'd also have to think that, man being what he is, and what we came from, the society that we came from, to devolve to where we are now in the show, in the continuity of the show, and then 25 years later, you wouldn't be at the same level. You'd have to have cities again. You'd have to have some kind of a government structure, even if it was just states or little towns or whatever. Mankind society would have to get back together again,
right.
Find its feet again. So I agree with you. I think, and actually, as you were talking, I was like, yeah, with Judith leading a group, time jumping forward, having Judith would be a better explanation for that cover than Maggie and Crybaby's kid in the future.
So maybe that would be cool if that's who this is.
That would be cool.
That would be very cool. Except it can't be. In the comic, it can't be.
You're right.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah, man, we were so close.
I know. Oh well. But anyway, so those are the little pieces of news I had. Did you have any other news?
That's it. That's all I got.
Okay. So next week we got what's the title for next week? 411.
I can't remember.
Do we know?
I'm sure we know it, but
So just as a reminder, we will be live tweeting that show. So if you are on Twitter, you definitely want to follow Batman at BatmanKM and at Biters
Biters Podcast.
Podcasts.com. No, just at Biters
Twitter,
Podcast.
yeah.
Right. Duh. And that zombie virus is just kicking in, man. I got the Costa eyes and everything. But see, I brought that back around.
Who's saying Betty Davis eyes? We can do Bob Costas eyes. He's got Bob Costas eyes.
All right, and so definitely want to do
Jim
that.
Carnes.
And make sure that if you have some comments on the episode, or you want to share with us, or if you'd like to get your opinions on our show or on the show itself, Walking Dead, read online on the show, then definitely either post up at Facebook or send us an email at biterspodcasts@gmail.com.
And be sure to check out southgatemediagroup.com for all the other podcasts that they do, from Doctor Who to S.H.I.E.L.D. to Sleepy Hollow. I'm on the Disturbed podcast, which with Scott Malkus, we did American Horror Story. But since that season's ended, we're doing a podcast starting next week called Comrades, and it's going to be about The Americans, which is a fantastic show and on FX, and we'll be podcasting about that.
Cool.
Be sure to also check out our sponsors that we have. We've got, like as I mentioned earlier, Entertainment Earth has great toys and collectibles and just awesome stuff. You can find that on the website. It'll link over, take you to all the Walking Dead and zombie stuff that they have, and also Tweaked Audio, which is makes great earbuds for iPods and iPhones and stuff. Really cool. And if you go on there, and I believe it's Biters, right? Oh man, I can't remember if you go on with a code, if you order something with Biters, I believe as the code, you'll get 30% off your order, which is cool. So
that's awesome. And if you're into zombies and comics, definitely check out the book that Jeff and I do, Z Girl and the Four Tigers, which can be bought online as a digital download, or you can order hard copies, print-on-demand copies through the website at zgirl.org. And there's also a lot of other cool things at the website, galleries, and we have a going, kind of almost like a blog going there where we post up new work all the time. So definitely check out zgirl.org when you get a chance.
And I think with that, we wrap up for yet another successful week.
Definitely. Thanks for everybody's listening and interest in the show. Our downloads have started to increase, so we hope that means people are enjoying what we're doing, and we hope to hear from more people because we'd love to interact with you guys more. So write in.
All right.
All right, man.
See everybody next week.
Peace.
If you would like to donate to help pay for this and other Southgate Media Group podcasts, simply go to our website, southgatemediagroup.com, and click on the donate button. It can be as little as $1 or, well, as much as you want. Help keep this fun going by supporting this and our other shows. Thanks again for listening, everyone. You're the best fans in the world.